The Principles of Economics by Carl Menger. Chapter 5. The Theory of Price. Introduction. However much prices, or in other words, the quantities of goods actually exchanged may impress themselves on our senses, and on this account form the usual object of scientific investigation, they are by no means the most fundamental feature of the economic phenomenon of exchange. This central feature lies rather in the better provision two persons can make for the satisfaction of their needs by means of trade. Economizing individuals strive to better their economic position as much as possible. To this end, they engage in economic activity in general. And to this end also, whenever it can be attained by means of trade, they exchange goods. Prices are only incidental manifestations of these activities, symptoms of an economic equilibrium between the economies of individuals. If the locks between two still bodies of water at different levels are open, the surface will become ruffled with waves that will gradually subside until the water is still once more. The waves are only symptoms of the operation of the forces we call gravity and friction. The prices of goods, which are symptoms of an economic equilibrium in the distribution of possessions between the economies of individuals, resemble these waves. The force that drives them to the surface is the ultimate and general cause of all economic activity, the endeavor of men to satisfy their needs as completely as possible, to better their economic positions. But since prices are the only phenomena of the process that are directly perceptible, since their magnitudes can be measured exactly, and since daily living brings them unceasingly before our eyes, it was easy to commit the error of regarding the magnitude of price as the essential feature of an exchange, and as a result of this mistake to commit the further error of regarding the quantities of goods in an exchange as equivalents. The result was incalculable damage to our science, since writers in the field of price theory lost themselves in attempts to solve the problem of discovering the cause of an alleged equality between two quantities of goods. Some found the cause in equal quantities of labor expended on the goods, others found it in equal cost of production, and a dispute even arose as whether the goods are given for each other because they are equivalents, or whether they are equivalents because they are exchanged. But such an equality of the values of two quantities of goods, an equality in the objective sense, nowhere has any real existence. The error on which these theories were based becomes immediately apparent as soon as we free ourselves from the one-sidedness that previously prevailed in the observation of price phenomena. The only quantities of goods that can be called equivalents in the objective sense of the term are quantities which, at a given point in time, can be exchanged at will, that is, in such a way that if one of the two quantities of goods is offered, the other can be acquired for it, and vice versa. But equivalents of this sort are nowhere present in human economic life. If goods were equivalents in this sense, there would be no reason, market conditions remaining unchanged, why every exchange should not be capable of reversal. Suppose A exchanges house for B's farm, or for a sum of $20,000. If these goods had become equivalents in the objective sense of the term as a result of the transaction, or if they had already been equivalents before it took place, there is no reason why the two participants should not be willing to reserve the trade immediately. But experience tells us that in a case of this kind, neither of the two would give his consent to such an arrangement. The same observation can also be made under the most highly developed conditions of trade, and even with respect to the most saleable commodities. Let anyone buy grain on the grain exchange or securities on a stock exchange and try to sell them again before a change in market conditions occur, or let him try to sell and buy separate units of the same commodity at the same time, and he will easily be convinced that the difference between supply prices and demand prices is no mere accident, but a general feature of social economy. Thus commodities that can be exchanged against each other in certain definite quantities, a sum of money and a quantity of some other economic good, for instance, that can be exchanged for each other at will by a sale or a purchase, in short, commodities that are equivalents in the objective sense of the term, do not exist, even on given markets, and, at a given point in time, and what is more important, deeper understanding of the causes that lead to the exchange of goods and to human trade in general teaches us that equivalents of this sort are utterly impossible in the very nature of the case and cannot exist in reality at all. A correct theory of prices cannot, therefore, have the task of explaining an alleged equality of value between two quantities of goods when such an equality does not, in truth, exist anywhere. In this setting the subjective character of value and the nature of exchange would be completely misunderstood. A correct theory of price must instead be directed to showing how economizing men in their endeavor to satisfy their needs as fully as possible are led to give goods, that is, definite quantities of goods, for other goods. In this investigation I shall proceed in accordance with the methods followed generally in this work, beginning with the simplest phenomena and gradually passing on to the more complex phenomena of price formation.